Down by the edge of a great big pond, where the water whispered secrets to the reeds, lived a little pebble named Rocky. He wasn't a flat, skimming stone like his brothers and sisters, who lay in smooth, neat piles waiting for a chance to fly. No, Rocky was perfectly, wonderfully round, like a tiny gray moon that had fallen from the sky and nestled in the soft, damp sand. Every morning, the sun would peek over the tall green trees, and its light would dance across the water. This was Rocky's favorite time and also his saddest. He would watch as a gentle hand would reach down, pick up a flat stone, and with a flick of a wrist send it soaring. The flat stone would zip and skip, skip, skip across the pond's surface, making a happy splishing sound with each little jump. 4 times, before finally making a soft final plunk and disappearing into the cool, quiet deep. Rocky would watch from the shore, wobbling a little on his spot. He would try to imagine what it felt like to fly through the air, to feel the wind beneath him and to touch the water so lightly. But he knew in his stony little heart that if someone picked him up, he wouldn't skip. He would just go thump and kerplunk, sinking straight to the bottom. His roundness, which made him so good at rolling, made him very bad at skipping. A tiny shiver of sadness would sometimes roll through him, making him feel even smaller than he was. The world of skipping and splashing felt so far away. One sunny afternoon, after watching a particularly wonderful skip from a long flat stone, Rocky had a new thought. It wasn't a sad thought. It was a fizzy, bubbly thought that made him feel warm all over. If he couldn't be the best skipping stone, what if he could be something else? What if he could be the most beautiful, the most interesting, the most wonderful to look at stone on the whole entire shoreline? What if he could be so special that someone would want to pick him up just to look at him, not to throw him? The idea grew bigger and brighter inside him. He wouldn't just be a plain old pebble. He would become the most colorful skip stone that never skipped at all. He would be a work of art. He decided then and there to go on an adventure, a quest to find the most beautiful colors the pond had to offer. He wanted to find colors that told a story, his story. He would start with the color he knew best. He would find the most perfect gray. And so, with a wobble and a roll, little Rocky went on his way, beginning his search for the heart of his very own color. Rocky thought finding gray would be easy. After all, the whole shore seemed to be made of it. There were big gray rocks, small gray pebbles, and dusty gray sand. But Rocky wasn't looking for just any gray. He was looking for a special gray. A gray that felt like home, but more beautiful. He began to roll, a slow and careful journey over the bumpy sand. Bumpity bump bump. He rolled past a family of pebbles, all huddled together. They were a simple sleepy gray, the color of a cloudy day. It was a nice gray, a cozy gray, but it wasn't the special gray he was looking for. He kept rolling. He saw a tall, proud boulder standing with its feet in the water. It was a mighty gray full of strength and shadows. It had stood there for longer than anyone could remember, watching the sun rise and set, day after day. Rocky looked up at its vast, weathered face. This gray was wise and strong, but it felt too big, too grand for a little round pebble like him. He gave the great boulder a respectful little nod and continued his journey. Wobble and roll. A shadow passed over him, and he looked up to see a soft gray dove landing gracefully on a branch above. Her feathers were the color of morning mist, a gentle feathery gray that looked so incredibly soft. For a moment Rocky wished he could be covered in that downy gray. A tiny feather drifted down and landed beside him. It was lovely, but it was too light. The first little puff of wind would surely blow it away. He needed a gray that would stay with him. He rolled on, feeling a little discouraged. Was all gray the same? Was he just a plain, ordinary color after all? He stopped near the water's edge, where the tiny waves made a gentle splashing sound. The water washed over the sand, and as it pulled back, it revealed something new. There, glistening in the sun, were dozens of tiny stones, all washed clean by the pond. And one of them was perfect. It was a small, smooth gray stone, just a little smaller than Rocky himself. But its color was deep and rich, like a stormy sky just before the rain begins to fall. It had tiny darker gray lines running through it like secret rivers. When the water washed over it, it shone with a quiet light. This was it. This was the gray he had been searching for. It wasn't sleepy or too big or too feathery. It was a calm, interesting, and beautiful gray. Rocky felt a happy little jiggle. This perfect gray stone would be his friend, the first piece of his new self. He rolled right up next to it, positioning himself so they were side by side. Now he wasn't just a round gray pebble. He was a round gray pebble with a friend, a beautiful, smooth, stormy gray companion. He felt a little more special already. He looked at his reflection in the wet sand. Together they looked like a small gray sculpture. The first part of his plan was complete. But what would be next? What color could possibly make his wonderful gray look even better? He needed something that would pop, something as bright as a flash of lightning in that stormy gray sky. He knew just the color. He needed to find white. And so, with a wobble and a roll, and with his new gray friend nestled close, little Rocky went on his way, searching for the purest, brightest white. The search for white was much trickier than the search for gray. Gray was everywhere, but white was a rare and special treasure. Rocky rolled along the water's edge, his little pebble eyes searching every nook and cranny. The sun was warm on his back, making the sand feel cozy beneath him. He saw something white bobbing gently in the water. It was a cluster of foam, made from the waves splashing against a log. It was a brilliant, bubbly white like a fluffy cloud. Rocky rolled a little closer to the water. Could he perhaps catch a piece of it? But as he got near, a small wave came and the white foam dissolved into nothing, disappearing back into the water. It was beautiful, but it was not meant to last. He continued on his journey, bumpity-bump over the tangled roots of a willow tree. He looked up and saw something promising. Dangling from a low branch were the fluffy white seeds of the willow, like tiny bits of cotton. One floated down and landed right in front of him. It was a perfect snowy white. Rocky nudged it gently. It was so light, so airy. But just like the dove's feather, he knew the wind would carry it away on its next journey. He needed a white that was strong, a white that would stay. He felt a little sigh pass through him. Where could a little pebble find something so bright and white? He decided to roll away from the water and explore the grassy bank just beyond the sand. The grass was tall and green, and it tickled him as he rolled through it. It was a whole new world here, full of buzzing bees and busy ants. And then he saw it. Nestled at the base of a patch of bright green clover was a small, lonely shape. It was a piece of a bird's eggshell. It had fallen from a nest high above. It was a delicate, pale white, the color of morning milk. And it was curved almost like a tiny hug. Rocky rolled closer, full of excitement. This might be the one. He gently nudged the piece of shell. It was stronger than the foam and heavier than the seed fluff. He carefully maneuvered himself and pushed the piece of shell until it was resting right against his other side, opposite his smooth gray friend. He now had a stormy gray stone on one side and a delicate, milky white curve of eggshell on the other. He looked wonderful. The white made the gray look deeper and more mysterious. He felt very proud. He stayed there for a long time, just enjoying his new look. But as he sat there, a busy little ant came marching by. The ant bumped right into the eggshell. Tink! A tiny crack appeared. The ant, not meaning any harm, scrambled over it and another piece chipped off. Rocky held perfectly still. The eggshell was beautiful, but it was too fragile. It wouldn't survive his rolling and wobbling. With a heavy heart, he knew he had to leave the beautiful, broken shell behind and continue his search. He rolled back towards the shoreline, feeling sadder than before. Finding white was proving to be a very hard thing to do. He stopped to rest in the shadow of a large, flat rock that jutted out over the sand. He was tired from all his rolling. As he rested, he noticed something about the rock that was shading him. Down near the bottom, where it had been scraped by other stones over many, many years, there was a streak of startling white. It wasn't a fragile white or a disappearing white. It was a strong, chalky white, part of the rock itself. It looked like a stripe of moonlight painted right onto the stone. Rocky rolled closer. He nudged the white streak. It was solid and smooth. He pushed a little harder, and a tiny, crumbly piece of the white stone loosened and fell onto the sand. It was perfect, It was a small lumpy piece of chalky rock, but it was the most brilliant solid white he had ever seen. It felt strong and true. He carefully rolled it over to his side, pushing it with all his might until it settled snugly against him. He pushed his stormy gray companion stone against his other side. Now he was complete. The three of them a little round family. His own gray self in the middle, a deep stormy gray on one side, and a bright chalky white on the other. He had done it. He sat there feeling the sun warm his new colors. The gray was calm and strong. The white was bright and hopeful. He felt so wonderfully unique. But as he admired his new self, he saw something out on the water. The sun was hitting the ripples in a special way, and they were sparkling. A million tiny lights were dancing and winking on the surface of the pond. And Rocky in that moment knew his quest wasn't over. He had one more color to find. The most magical color of all. He needed to find Sparkly. And so with a wobble and a roll, carrying his gray and white treasures with him, little Rocky went on his way, searching for a sparkle he could call his own. Finding Sparkly was the greatest challenge of all. How could a little pebble catch a piece of sunlight? How could he hold on to the wink of a wave? Sparkly was not a color you could simply pick up. It was a feeling, a moment of magic. But Rocky was determined. He wanted to shine. He rolled along the shoreline, his gaze fixed on the shimmering water. He watched the light dance, a radiant display that was always moving, always changing. It was beautiful to watch, but it was impossible to hold. He rolled past a spider's web spun between two tall blades of grass. It was covered in tiny morning dewdrops, and each dewdrop held a tiny, perfect sparkle of sunlight, like a little diamond. Oh, it was so beautiful. But Rocky knew that as the day grew warmer, the dewdrops would vanish into the air. The sparkle was only visiting. He continued his journey, feeling a little bit like he was chasing a dream. Wobble and roll. He made his way to a part of the shore he had never explored before, a place where the big willow tree dipped its branches right into the water. The air was cool and shady here. As he rested in the shade, he saw a snail making its slow, careful way across a large, flat leaf. The snail left a trail behind it, a ribbon of silvery slime. When the light hit that trail just right, it shimmered with a soft, pearly sparkle. It was a quiet kind of sparkly, a secret sparkle. Rocky watched, fascinated. The trail was beautiful, but it was also sticky and wet, and he knew it would soon dry up and fade away. He needed a sparkle that would last forever. Would he ever find it? Would he have to be happy with just gray and white? They were beautiful colors and he was very proud of them. Maybe that was enough. He was just about to give up and roll back to his sunny spot when his eye caught a strange glint. It wasn't on the water and it wasn't on a leaf. It was coming from a rock, half buried in the dark, damp earth beneath the willow roots. It was a large grayish rock, not unlike many others. But something was different about this one. Rocky felt a shiver of excitement. What could that bright spot be shining from the dark? He had to get a closer look. With all his might, he began to roll towards the rock. It was hard work. The ground was soft and muddy here, and his round body kept sinking a little. Push, wobble, roll. He kept his eyes on the glint of light, using it like a lighthouse to guide him. Finally, he reached the mysterious rock. He was right beside it now, and he could see the source of the light. The big rock wasn't just plain gray. It had veins running through it, thick stripes of a different kind of stone. And inside those stripes were tiny, flat, silvery flakes that caught the light like 1,000 little mirrors. It was mica. It was a sparkly rock. It wasn't borrowing its shine from the sun or the dew. The sparkle was inside of it, a part of its very self. It was a radiant, permanent sparkle. Rocky was overjoyed. He had found it. But how could he get a piece? The rock was huge and strong. He nudged it, but it didn't move at all. He rolled all around it, looking for a loose piece, a tiny crumb of sparkle that might have broken off. And there on the far side, tucked into a little crevice, was a small, sharp flake of the sparkly mica. It had broken off long ago and was just waiting to be discovered. It was perfect. More than perfect. It was his. But how could he make it stick to him? He thought for a moment. He remembered the snail's sticky trail. Then he remembered seeing the willow tree cry little drops of golden, sticky sap from its bark. He rolled over to the trunk of the great tree. Sure enough, there was a tiny, perfect bead of amber-colored sap oozing from a crack. It was very, very sticky. Carefully, Rocky rolled himself into the sticky sap, getting just a tiny bit on his top. Then, just as carefully, he rolled back to his sparkly treasure. He lined himself up and pressed the sticky spot right onto the mica flake. He held very still for a long, long moment. Then slowly he rolled away. It worked. The sparkly flake was stuck fast to his top, right between his gray companion stone and his white chalky friend. He was magnificent. He rolled out from under the shade of the willow tree and into the bright sunshine. The light hit the mica flake, and it exploded into a shower of tiny rainbows. It flashed and glittered with every little move he made. He was no longer just Rocky the round gray pebble. He was a masterpiece. He was a calm stormy gray. He was a bright hopeful white. And now he was a radiant magical sparkly. He sat by the water's edge, not with sadness, but with a deep rumbling pride. He couldn't skip across the water, but he could outshine the sun. He had found his own way to be special. Rocky sat proudly on the shoreline, a little beacon of curated color. His smooth gray companion felt calm and steady beside him. His bright white stone shone with clean, happy light. And on top, his radiant sparkly treasure caught the sun's rays, sending tiny flashes of light dancing over the sand. He didn't feel sad anymore when he watched the flat stones skimming across the pond. Their journey was fast and splashy and exciting. His journey had been slow and careful and full of discovery. They were made for skipping. He was made for shining. He was so busy admiring his new self that he didn't notice the gentle footsteps approaching on the sand. A little boy with sunny yellow boots had come down to the water's edge to find skipping stones. The boy knelt down, his eyes scanning the piles of flat, smooth pebbles. His hand hovered over a perfect dark gray skimmer. But then a flash of light caught his eye. A tiny, brilliant sparkle, winking at him from near the water. The little boy paused. He forgot all about the flat skipping stones. His eyes grew wide with wonder. What was that? He crept closer, moving slowly so as not to scare whatever magical thing it was. And then he saw it. It was a little pebble perfectly round. It had a dark gray stone on one side, and a chalky white stone on the other. And right on top was a piece of something that glittered like a tiny star. The boy had never seen a stone like this before. It wasn't a skipping stone. It was a treasure. Very, very gently, the little boy reached out his hand. He didn't flick his wrist to throw it. He carefully picked Rocky up, cradling him in the palm of his hand. He lifted him up to the light, turning him over and over. He touched the smooth gray stone. He traced the bright white stone with his fingertip. He watched, mesmerized, as the sparkly flake on top threw rainbows onto his skin. Rocky sat in the boy's warm hand, feeling safer and happier than he had ever felt before. He hadn't been skipped. He hadn't been thrown. He had been chosen. He had been chosen not for what he could do, but for what he was. His roundness didn't matter. His colors, the ones he had found himself, the ones that told his story, had made him special. He had wanted to be the most beautiful stone on the shore, and to this little boy he was. The boy closed his fingers gently around Rocky, making a warm, safe little cave. He didn't put him in his pocket with the other ordinary rocks. He held him carefully all the way home. Rocky couldn't see where he was going, but he could feel the gentle movement, and he could feel the warmth from the little boy's hand. He wasn't a skipping stone left behind on the shore anymore. He was a treasure, going on a brand new adventure. And as he rested in the darkness, Rocky the round pebble felt a happy, radiant sparkle grow right in the center of his stony little heart. What new colors and adventures might Rocky find in a little boy's cozy room? Perhaps that is a story for another sunny day. A moral: it's wonderful to be unique. You don't have to be like everyone else to be special. You can find happiness and acceptance by celebrating what makes you you.